right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our March meeting for Collin County. If you've looked outside here recently, at least in my area, we've seen something we haven't seen in a while. Getting quite a bit of rain here, which is a good thing for our flowers. We've been really needing it. So when we get to the BeeTalk, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, we're going to go in and have our current queen and princess give their talk that they have today, and then right after that it will be Mary Reisinger. She has or actually Mary Rodriguez now, but she will have a talk about some upcoming events that we need some volunteers for. So if Gretchen is ready, if you could go ahead and give your talk.
So hello everyone, I am Gretchen Cheddar, and I am your Collin County Honey Queen. I give presentations about bees and pollination, and I'm pleased to say that we will be having our first presentation in person at the Collin County Garden Show this weekend. So I would hope to see all of y'all there if you could make it. So if you have any other groups that would like to give we could give presentations to, that could be school groups, church groups, scouting groups, anyone really, that we would love to give more presentations. So please email Mary at collincountyhoneyqueenshare@gmail.com. So far, we've been attending the scholarship classes, and I have been practicing with recipes with honey. To the last scholarship class, I brought honey joys, which are a fun honey treat, and they seem to be well liked. So I've been experimenting, and I hope to give some presentations on that. So I would hope to see you all at the Collin County Garden Show. So if Isla would like to say anything.
All right, Mary, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, I can speak for a minute. My video wasn't turning on and neither was my sound, but it looks like Mike fixed it for me. So I'm Mary Reisinger, but now I'm Mary Rodriguez. I just got married. I'm a past Honey Queen, and I'm currently the Honey Queen coordinator. So there's an event coming up this weekend, which is the 19th and 20th of March. And it's the Collin County Collin County Master Beekeepers, not beekeepers, gardeners show. And it's amazing. I've been to it for multiple years. I know Skip's been there. It's a great event. And if you've been to the state fair and you've presented there, it's kind of a similar experience. You get to talk to all these people who love gardening and love agriculture and tell them about honeybees and how they can start beekeeping. A lot of people come and join the scholarship program from this event. They come and join the Beekeeping Association to learn more. So this is a great event to just refine your explanation of beekeeping and what's going on in the beekeeping industry. So if you're interested in helping Booth, the times we're going to be there are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you want to just sign up for a 2-hour slot, just email me and we can set you up for something. My email is honeyqueenshare@cchba.org, and we'll have everything set up. You can just come and help Booth and answer questions. My email is honeyqueenshare@cchba.org, and just send me an email and I can set you up for a couple of hours or the full day if you'd like. Thank you.
All right, Ayla.
Hi, I'm so sorry. It wouldn't initially let me turn my camera on, but just to give a quick update on what I've been working on over the past month. So we haven't been able to give that many presentations, but Gretchen and I have been attending the scholarship classes, and that's been a really great experience because we've been able to sort of solidify our beekeeping knowledge. And I know I've been like asking questions and learning a lot more about the things that I may not have known a lot about or learned about last year. And this weekend, we're really looking forward to attending the Master Gardening Show and presenting at that. And last year I actually helped out at the state fair, and it was one of my favorite experiences, like working with the club. And so I'm really excited to have sort of a similar experience. And if any members of the club are interested in setting up presentations, please email Miss Reisinger, because we'd love to have opportunities to talk about honeybees more.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to share my screen real quick. We'll get to our March bee tips and the bee talk. All right, so our March bee talk. So some of the upcoming week. So you can see here, if you're starting to brood out, which most of you should be all right, but we'll get close to the end of the cold weather. You'll see a lot more activity. I know we've been seeing a lot of activity in our beehives, going back and forth and collecting pollen. Not so much on the nectar, but we are having a few nectar plants starting to come out now. You can start supplementing with your syrup and your pollen patties if you need to. For your pollen patties, I would give it in the smallest amount, maybe even like a quarter of the pound that you can buy it in, and just let them eat that all up before I keep, putting more in. Because like I said, with the upcoming flowers starting to come out, they're going to get some of the more natural pollens, and that'll be more beneficial than the pollen patties. But we still have a late start in some areas. I know we started seeing some dandelions coming out, and then, like I said, because of the dry weather, they just haven't been as productive as I think they will be now that we're getting some of this rain. You still need to check your boxes for your stores. You need to make sure that they got plenty of stores to make it through. I think we're through with most of the cold fronts for the really cold fronts. I know we've got a cooler front coming through. It's going to drop them down in the 50s, but they'll still be able to fly. So you want to make sure you're checking those stores and check and make sure they got plenty of syrup to last on through there. And also, like I said, until the nectar flows really get started, you may want to start supplementing with syrup just to get the bees started. Like I said, inspect your hives on those good calm days. We've had lots more sunshine. So at 55 degrees, get in there, check them out. Make sure that you got good clusters going on, checking for your eggs, larvae, and the cat brood. Then, like I said, once you get that done, make sure your lids are back on now. We've been having some massive windstorms coming through, and haven't had any of our lids blow off right now, but I know that it has in the past. So once you start cracking those open, you may want to make sure you push them down good and tight, or put something on top of them. And this is a time too, if you've got those weak colonies and it doesn't look like they're going to survive, let's go ahead and combine those colonies with some of your stronger ones, and then get those bees taken care of. Like I said, I don't think we're going to be in any more real serious cold fronts. I think it's just going to be cooler weather, and it's going to start warming up. So hopefully you see lots and lots of sunshine. So here's some of our tips, because we're in spring, or at least here pretty soon we're going to be the official day of spring. So we're seeing a lot more coming out. If you actually watch the weather reports around the noontime, or catch them throughout the day, you'll start seeing what the pollen is coming out. I know they've been advertising and saying the elms and all the tree pollens are getting higher. So that's a good sign that we're starting to get some of those pollens out for the bees to get a hold of. So like I said, you can just watch that, and it'll give you some idea of what our pollen counts are looking like. Plus, like I said, just walk out there, see what your bees are doing, and see what they're bringing in. So some of our early blooms, like I said, we normally used to see lots and lots of dandelions, but they're slowly coming out. A few areas I've seen them. I've seen the what they call purple prairie grass, which is the little bitty purple flower over here to the right. And I haven't seen too much of the I can't remember what it's like, the prairie. What's that one called? Groundsel. That'll be out in most of the fields. So with that coming out, we'll hopefully with some of this rain that we're getting right now, that they'll start blooming out a lot more. Like I said, our ground has been really dry. Even with the cold fronts and getting some of the ice, it gave a little bit of moisture for some of the plants. I know my dad's flowering quince is starting to come out with a lot more. We see a lot of activities with the bees there, and our Mexican plum is a little bit behind. Maybe about a week more, we'll start seeing a lot more buds on it. So, like I said, and the redbud tree should start coming out. So brood rearing is starting to dramatically ramp up. So start looking in your colonies for that. Like I said, you should start seeing patterns get larger. Our strong pollen flow in most of our areas, weather permitting, like I said, with the lack of rain, it hasn't been as strong as we want it to. But I think with the current situations, we got rain today through the night. I think we're supposed to get another chance, a couple different rains, and you should be seeing a lot more flowers come out. Our temperatures are still roller coastering, but I think we got Thursday, we're supposed to be back up in the 80s. But like I said, we got another cool front that drops us back down in the 50s. So like I said, it's still going to be going back and forth, but we should start being stabilizing out in a lot more bee flight time. So like I said, as you watch those, just, like I said, maintain and watch your stores in there, and make sure that they got plenty to go. Because like I said, the broodberry side of the house should really start ramping up, and we should start seeing lots of more clusters of bees. So like I said, syrup feeding, like I said, maintaining about 20 pounds of stores, just through the, like I said, make sure they got plenty, make sure she's got plenty of room to lay brood. You don't want to make her what we call honey bound, where she doesn't have the area. So you want to make sure that's happening. If you're feeding 2 to 1, it's still good if you're in the comb building stages. But what you want to be doing is start feeding 1 to 1, so that mimics more of the nectar flow. If you have to use a division board or top feeder rather than entrance feeders, go ahead and change those, and that way you can get more on. Some of those come from like 3/4 of a gallon to up to 2 gallons, and then they've got those top feeders also that you can use. They hold, I think one of them holds about 4 gallons in there. So if you need to get some feed on there, those are some good feeders to use. Especially for quantity. You may have some, especially like the division board feeders, if you're not using the man lake version and got the open top, you will get some bee kills on that one, just because the bees get very pushy and start pushing each other into the syrup, and then you'll get a few deaths in there from that. But they do have the man lake version that has the ladders in there, or if you want to do something yourself to create a little floater, that's what we've done in ours, is create a floater in there. So that way they can get on that little stick or something inside there and not actually get drowned in the syrup. But yeah, you should be checking them 2 to 3 times through March. Make sure there's sufficient stores, checking on your brood, checking on your queen. Get your queens ordered or get on the list. And then hopefully you'll be ready for, if you're looking to expand, you'll be doing some splits, or one, you need to start looking to maintain and keep them from swarming. So if you have to add those extra boxes, add those boxes on until you get time to decide whether you're going to make splits or continue on the way you're going. Still with the pollen patties, watch for, I wouldn't say cold weeks, but maybe a couple of cold days. I think we're out of them. I think this last one, this last weekend was our last really cold, but like I said, you never know. I think Farmer's Almanac said March 12th was the last one, or what they predicted that happened March 12th. So, like I said, just be aware of that. Like I said, if you're going to feed the pollen patties, feed them in smaller quantities. Let the bees eat it all up before you put the next one in. It's not critical, but it's not a bad idea either, to have that syrup and the pollen patty available. We've been putting out dry pollen to let them fly out there and get it, and they've really been hitting it hard. We've gone through 2 rounds of it, and probably going with the 3rd round. We put about 20 to 25 pounds in each pollen feeder, and they pretty much wiped that out. So like I said, they're looking for the pollen. Like I said, they're coming out of that winter and they're hungry, and they want to get started making bees. So like I said, just do what you can in there. Do it in a smaller scale if you're using patties. Dry pollen, there's lots of DIY online if you want to learn to make make your own little dry pollen feeder. I showed our class here at the seminar using a plastic coffee can, cutting a section out of the lid, taping the lid on good and tight, and you can just set that, nail it to a tree or nail it to a piece of wood, and then you'll have basically a dry pollen feeder that you can use there. A lot of people use the PVC pipe. So like I said, there's lots of different ideas. You don't have to buy one of those big pollen feeders. You can make something that will work and keep it dry. That's what the biggest thing is, keeping it dry so the bees can get into it. So Varroa testing for March, you want to start checking those levels. Like I said, you should be coming out of winter pretty small, but you need to start checking the levels. If you have over 2 per 100, it's a good time to start treating. You use some of the simpler treatments. More of your Fulminate Pros, the Mitaway Quick Strips, the oxalic acid, all the natural stuff, because the brood levels are down small enough that you can treat with those. You got on here some Hop Guards. It's a good one too. There's a new, I think it's new. It's either Hop Guard 2 or Hop Guard 3 that's out now. So they've done some different formulations of those. But like I said, you want to start testing those and keeping your mite levels down, especially before the honey flow hits, because like I said, once the honey flow hits, then you're going to increase. They say in the book it doubles every month. So however long you have them with your supers on and you're not doing those checks and treatments, you know, they're going to double. So like I said, make sure that you're checking your brood boxes. Like I said, if you came through the winter time and have the double stack of brood boxes and you've got multiple frames of brood already, yeah, you may want to look at some more effective treatments. But like I said, you know, because of the temperature levels at now, the oxalic, hop guard, formic acid, all those will be working because they're temperature sensitive. All right, so overcrowding in March, it should be a great problem. Like I said, when the box gets about 80% full, it's time to take some action. So 3 of the ones that you can look at is either you get ready for your splits. Like I said, you may make sure you have your queens available before you do that. Or even queen cells, you know, you can buy queen cells also. You can add boxes or equalize between your hives. So if you've got a hive that's really weak and you want to start help boosting it up, then you can equalize some brood in between the two, and then make that, you know, control the amount of bees in your box. But like I said, the overcrowding right now is not a major problem. Like I said, it's actually a good problem, because like I said, if you're looking at expanding, then you want to get those splits ready. And I've got several boxes right now that are be ready for splits come April when we get our queens in. So it's going to be looking good. When you do the hive inspections, and I think Dodie's talking about some more hive inspections, but just some quick tips real quick. Like I said, you want to have 2 to 8 frames of brood. You see those pollen stores in there, and you want to start seeing those nectars being stored. Like I said, well, make sure you have plenty of stores for them to make it through. And then make sure that queen's doing her job. You know, like I said, if you don't see any eggs or larvae, you probably don't have a queen in there. So you would take action as you can, you know, maybe combine a hive. So like I said, you need to be looking into those boxes and making sure that you're seeing those adequate eggs, larvae, and the cat brood. And then also your store should be starting to come in. A lot of the stuff I'm seeing right now is either yellow, and then with our dry pollen feeder, it's a white. So like I said, you should be starting to see a lot of the pollen and nectar start coming in as we get some more rains and the spring comes upon us. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get to the chat box and see what we've got for questions. All right. Peter Reiser said he checked his this weekend, saw him bringing in pollen. Yes, the one in the slide was henbit, but one we saw out here was called the purple eye grass. It kind of looks like an aster, but it is there, and it's starting to come out. Dodie also put on here that if you're using some of this, that you can drop corks down in the holes and help them from drowning each other. So that's a good idea if you've got the man lake version with the ladders going down there. And then she said, yes, they are up to hop guard 3. All right. If I don't have any more questions. Okay. Well, I'd like to introduce y'all to Dodie Stillman. She's been beekeeping for a while. I met her at the TBA conference. She's part of the Williamson County and the Austin area beekeepers down there. And I don't remember if she's a past president, but she was president of the Austin area beekeepers for a while. She is our current vice president for TBA. I actually get to work with her on the Texas Honey Bee Education Association board there. I'm now a part of that board and as a director. And she is one of our inaugural Texas Master Beekeepers. So when the program first started out, she was one of the first 7 that got in there and helped us do that program. She teaches a lot of beekeeping classes, and I'm hoping to hear some good things, and at least some different things from what I teach. So Dodie, if you're ready, we'll let you take this away.
Good deal. So yes, I am a master beekeeper, and I just now agreed to join the Master Beekeeping Board. So if anybody has any questions about going through the Master Beekeeper program, reach out to me. I would love to talk you into doing it. It's a great program. And yes, past president of the Austin area beekeepers, finally got some other people to step up and take over. Our club kind of went silent during COVID. So it's good to finally start getting back and seeing people in person again. So, but we did get other people in to help. I've got a bunch of new people going on with the Austin Club now, so I'm officially past president. So we're going to talk about inspecting your hives and kind of what to expect when you're inspecting, along the lines of that, what to expect when you're inspecting, about to have a baby kind of book. Made me think of this title. If I have a lot of interactive stuff here, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. So if you guys are new to beekeeping and you want to guess, I would love to see your comments, or even unmute yourself and answer some of the things that you see. We've got a bunch of slides where we're going to be finding the queen and all kinds of good stuff. So we'll be doing some, like I said, some queen spotting. And everybody see the queen in this one, right? Don't worry, they're going to get harder. I have some harder ones. I'm going to have a lot of what do you see questions. So y'all speak up and let me know what you see. All right, so here's our first queen spotter. Can y'all find her? All right, Skip sees her. Everybody else see her? I don't have any way of knowing. Here we go. Narrowed it down for half. So y'all should find her now, right? Okay, so I just want to let everybody know that there's no, you don't ever stop learning how to be a beekeeper. There's always some new science going on. We're learning more things about bees all the time. We're learning more things about the pests and the diseases that are hurting our bees. So it's not a learn and stop thing. It's a learn and relearn and relearn. Education is the most important thing for successfully keeping bees. You need to understand the why of what you're doing. And that is as important as understanding the how to do it, right? So something that I just recently learned is what you raise green bees. Everybody know what that means? Yeah. What you raise green bees, that helps you figure out what color your queen dot is for the year. White, yellow, red, green, and blue. So that's something that I just learned like last year. I know there was colors and I knew they went along with dates, but I didn't know which color went with which year. So
yeah, Dodie, they do it on a 5-year cycle and then they repeat themselves. So this year is yellow.
Right.
And
so,
and to everybody, the unmute has been lifted off here. So if you want to answer up, go ahead and answer, unmute yourself and answer.
Yay. All right, let's carry on. So the most important thing that you're going to learn in keeping bees, and I know math is scary, but this is the math that you need to know. The good news is that most of us only really need to pay really close attention to the middle column, the worker bee, and that's easy to remember, 3, 6, 12, right? That's pretty easy. But you've got to be able to look at a frame and know what that means. What does that mean? What's going to happen to your population in the next week, right? Look at all those capped brood cells. Those babies are going to hatch out. And you're in beekeeping, it's a lot of thinking about what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen 2 weeks from now. You've got to stay ahead of all that. That's a whole bunch of babies about to hatch out. And a frame of brood equals 3 frames of walking around bees. So do you have enough space in your hive for those babies to be walking around in 3 weeks? And let's find the queen. Knocked it down to half again, and you can find her because she's blue, right? That's an easy one to find too. All right, so everybody needs to have goals as a beekeeper. Having your goals is going to help you decide so many things. If your goal is to be a commercial beekeeper, then you're thinking about feeding your bees that pollen because you want them to start brooding up early. But if your goal is just to keep some bees in the backyard, then you don't want them to brood up too early because there's probably not going to be a lot of stuff blooming. You're not going to haul them off to put them in the almond flowers, in late February, early March. So there's reasons for doing everything, and you need to make sure that what you're doing, why you're doing it. Maybe you just want bees to help you pollinate your garden. Maybe you want to help the whole global honeybee population issue. Maybe it's just because bees are cool. Whatever your reasons are, there are 3 big reasons that as a beekeeper, every beekeeper should keep in mind: that you want to have nice, healthy bees, you want to have a maximized population, and you want to keep your bees alive through the winter. Those should be your main goals. And then you should have, or maybe you have additional personal goals after that. So maybe it's just to maximize your honey. You want to play with honeycomb, make some beeswax. You want to have some chunk honey, or maybe you want to sell bees or queens or something like that. So having your goals in mind is going to help you move forward in your beekeeping career. So when you're doing your hive inspection, exactly what are you doing? The hive inspection is there to identify both the positive and the negative living conditions in your colony. What I'd say a lot is that I look for bad. If I don't see anything bad, then I let them go, right? So look for bad. A true hive inspection is going to have, you need to know why you're getting into your colonies. Don't just get in there all the time because that'll upset the bees. You have to have a reason, and you need to know why you're doing it. You're not just opening it up and looking at them, right? Just for fun. You have some reason. Maybe your reason is that you've just installed a package. Maybe you have to introduce that new queen and it's time to let her out of her cage. Just about every time you go into a hive, you should be checking to make sure that you're queen right. And that means that you either find your queen or you find evidence that she was there. And that evidence could be eggs. If you're really good at spotting eggs and know what you're looking for, spotting those eggs, that means your queen was there at least 3 days ago. So that's a good thing. That means you're probably queen right. If you can't find eggs, but you see little tiny larvae, that's good. I'd be a little nervous about not seeing any eggs, but as long as I did see little tiny larvae, I would give them another week and come back with my next inspection and make sure, I didn't see any eggs last time. Do I still have a good population? Do I see eggs this time, or can I find my queen? So you're always checking to make sure you're queen right. You might be checking to make sure that your colony is not about to swarm. You're doing some swarm control options. You're always going to be checking for resources. It might be that you're looking in your colony because you made a split just recently and you want to see that they're doing okay. You might be going into your colony to harvest honey, checking the population, just doing seasonal maintenance. So there's always a reason to go in, but just as long as you have it in mind. All right, another queen spotting. Who can find her? This one's a little harder because I think my camera actually focused in on Jimmy's thumb instead of on the queen. Are you ready for me to zoom in? Yeah? You find her yet, Skip? I don't know if y'all can see his camera, but he's got his head turned sideways. He's looking hard. She's right in the middle and she's yellow. Here we go. I know the picture gets kind of blurry too when we get in close, but there she is. All right. You want to do one more? And we find her here. Yeah, he's already shaking his head. He's got her. All right. Here we go. Let's zoom in. So finding your queen is a really good skill to have. And I'm going to do a plug now, right now, for the state fair. If you guys need to polish up your queen spotting skills, you sign up for a shift at the state fair, because all you do all day long is point out the queen. Another cool thing at the state fair this year, I'm going to bring mine, is a laser pointer. That way you can stand back a little bit and point down at that queen, and you don't have to get your whole face in there. Everybody else can see you got that laser pointer going. We were just at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, and they have 2 observation hives. So we were using our laser pointers, worked great. Okay, so queen spotting, really important thing to do. Next up, when is a good time to inspect your colonies? You want to, I think even Skip mentioned, wait until it's a little bit warmer outside. 55 degrees is good. Good weather, the sun is shining, low or no wind is best, and between about 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So beekeeping doesn't have to be an early riser kind of thing. And we can do it at 10, 11, 12. Maybe in the middle of the day it'll be hot for you. But the good news is if you do this inspecting stuff in the middle of the day, all of your foragers will be out. So all you have in the box are just your young bees and your nurse bees. The ones that don't know they can fly yet. The ones that don't know they can sting yet. So generally they're nicer bees, young bees. And half your population more or less is out foraging. So you don't have as many bees to look through to do your inspections. All right, when is time not to inspect? This is not a good time to inspect. Skip had bad weather all day long today. Also, not good to go get into hives when there's bad weather coming. You don't want to go out when it's windy or when it's really cold. You don't want to go out when it's raining, and you don't want to go out at night. And there always are exceptions. Say you put your brand new package in and you've got your queen in the cage. She's been in there too long already. And it's raining. It's been raining for 3 days and it's scheduled to rain for 3 more, and you've got to let that queen out. So you might have to suit up and get a friend to suit up with you and hold the umbrella while you get in there and let that queen out of her cage. So there's always exceptions to all of these. It might be that it's a little too windy, really, and you wouldn't want to do it, but you're going on vacation and you got to get out. So, and it doesn't really matter if you think of your bees as pets, if you have them all named, or if they're livestock. If you've got to feed them, you've got to feed them. So always exceptions there. Ready to do another one? Skip's already shaking his head. He's got her. Yeah, here we go. Zooming right in on her. There she is. Go black dot on her thorax. Okay, so how often are we talking about getting into our hives? There's 2 different types of activities we can do with our hive. We can do a deep dive, and that's a full inspection, or we can just do a hive check. So a full inspection is top to bottom, front and back, every frame. And it says you might want to do these about 4 times a year. I probably only do it twice, top to bottom, every frame. I do it when I'm putting my bees to bed. I have that extra long weekend for Thanksgiving. I do it that weekend because I've got a couple of extra days. So I go through every one of my hives, top to bottom, front to back. I'm looking for any kind of pests, I just don't want to put them to bed. I want them to be positive when I put them to bed, right? I don't want to put them to bed with anything going on or anything wrong. And I get all the way down to the bottom board and I clean the bottom board off and I take it away and look underneath it and might pull some grass out from under it if there's anything under it, or definitely clean out from under the bottom board. But do that at least twice a year, if not 4 times. Your next type of hive check is, your next option is just to do a quick hive check. And I'll probably do that every other week. I go out and see my bees just about every other weekend, unless it's in the heat of the hot summer and I need to make sure they have water. We don't have the water source I have is, it's not quite an acre away, but I would rather the bees not have to work hard for water in the summer. So we have a tank that I just top off every time we go out. So if it's really hot and I know that water is evaporating, I'll go out there extra and top off that tank. So when I go out there, if I feel the need to do a quick hive check, I'm probably just going to, I'll walk around first and look at all the entrances. You can tell a whole lot by what's going on just by making sure your bees are going in and out and that you have the right number of bees going in and out for whatever time of year it is. Then I'll take and, do the smoke and get in there, crack the lid, take that one side frame out of the way because usually there's not much on that side outside frame. Then I've got some room and I might scoot the frames over till I get into the brood nest and I'll pull 1 or 2 brood frames out just to confirm that conditions are good. Another really important thing to do is to keep notes. You are not going to remember, no matter what you think, you're just not going to remember. I know lots of people that keep notes just right on top of their boards, their top, the lid of their beehive. And that's a great option too. By the time you've run out of space on your board, it's probably time to paint it again anyway. Another friend of mine has he's got a waterproof pencil and waterproof paper, and he sticks it on the board, sticks it down with thumbtacks on his top bar or on his top lid and writes notes on that. So his notes are there and they're waterproof so they don't get rained on. And she can write on it with a pencil and still see it. But figure out some way to keep notes. And there's even a couple of different apps you can use on your phone and keep notes that way if you want. So what are you going to do before you begin your inspection? Think about what you're going to do. Plan ahead so that you can be calm while you're doing this. Check any of your hive logs from your last inspection. Like if the last inspection you said, next time I need to remember to do blah, 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 you need to read those notes so that you can remember to do whatever that was. It might have been I need to bring extra supers out, or this lid is really warped, I need to bring a new lid, or, oh my gosh, I need to start putting my entrance reducers in, or I think we're getting to the season where robbing might start. I need to bring some robbing screens out. So look at your notes from the previous week or the previous inspection in case there's something that you need to bring with you out to your bee yard. So gather all of the equipment that you need so that you're not freaking out halfway through and, oh, I forgot, I got to go get something or whatever. You need to dress in your personal protective equipment. Dress to your level of comfort so that you can work your bees. If you know that hive in the corner is hot, is more defensive of its house than any of the other ones, and you think you need to have more than just one layer of gloves on, or if you feel like all of your hives are good and happy and you don't need to worry about anything, I would at least put on a veil. Stings on the face are the worst. And, if you get stung in the eye, it could cause serious damage. So I would at least recommend that everybody put on a veil, and then you dress to your comfort level so that you're not worried about getting stung while you're working your bees. Always, 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 always light your smoker. Always, always, always light your smoker, because that one time that you say, I'm just going to, is the time that you're going to get stung somewhere and it's not going to be comfortable. Always light your smoker. The reason why you light your smoker is because you are trying to disrupt the communication that's going on in that beehive. And the biggest communication that you want to disrupt is the one that says, we're under attack, sting here. So not only are you smoking your bees, but you're smoking yourself just as much. I go home after every time I'm in the yard with smoke, smelling it in my nose because I've puffed around my bee veil and around my face so many times just to get the bees to not be swarming around my face. If I get stingers on my gloves or somewhere on my suit, I'll puff smoke on me. So you always need to have your smoker going. As you're inspecting your hives, you're probably going to take 5 to not more than 20 minutes per hive, depending on how many boxes and what sort of activity you're doing. You don't want to keep your bees open much longer than 20 minutes. Use slow, deliberate movements. Observe what's going on. Since you've already thought about what you're going to do, then you should be able to calmly go about your hive check, since you've already got your plan. All right, observe your colonies. You want to before you even take the lids off, I walk around all the time and look at my entrance. I'm looking for my traffic. Do I have a lot of bees going in and out? Do I maybe need to open the entrance more or less? Do I see any bees crawling on the ground, right? Because that's not a good sign. Bees are meant to fly. Listen to the bees. You can tell if they're calm or if they're agitated. Smell the air. Do you smell bananas or do you smell lemons? Let's hope for lemons. Yes, that's the smell of a honey flow. Are they bringing back pollen? Look at that little girl with the pollen on her knees, right? So you can tell a lot about what's going on just by looking. If your colony is bringing in pollen, that means they've got babies in there to feed. So that's a good sign. All right, so as we are going into our hive, what you need to do first is try to stay out of the flight path. Try to work your bees from the back or the side, right? Get a puff of smoke going in the entrance. Let them realize that there's some smoke going on, and that's going to kind of start disrupting some of their communication. Pop the inner cover, pop the lid open just a little bit, maybe make another puff or 2 of smoke underneath the cover. You can also use that smoke to kind of herd your bees around. So smoke as you need to. Use the inner cover to stack your bees on, and then you can put the top cover right on top. A lot of times I'll not even look in the honey super. I don't most of the time because there's all honey up there. I might pop the lid and just look down in it. Yeah, that all looks like honey. So I'll just crack that whole box, leave the lid on, crack that whole box and pick that whole box up and put it down. I've got the lid on it still, and the exciting stuff is down there in the brood chambers. So I might not even look in that honey super too much. Try to avoid banging your hive and any quick movements. Stay calm. You're doing that whole Zen beekeeper thing, right? Nice, steady, slow movements. All right, here's another interactive thing. What do you see? Everybody have an answer? Propolis, that's the sticky stuff. And that looks like a really good amount of sticky stuff. So this was probably opened like first opening after putting them to bed for winter. All right, what do y'all see there? And what do you do when you see this? Everybody use all of their hive tool action and get all of your aggression out on all of those small hive beetles. And then you can be really nice and zen with the rest of your time in your bees. Take all that aggression out on all those small hive beetles. If you do find that you have a lot of small hive beetles, then Some treatment options are the beetle blaster, the little plastic thing that fits down in between the frames, and you can fill it with diatomaceous earth or vegetable oil, and let the bees will actually herd the little beetles into the traps. Another one is Beetle Be Gone. It's kind of the same thing as the Swiffer duster sheets, right? I can't remember who it was that told me they fold theirs up into 4 parts, into 4 squares, and take a thumbtack and poke it on the corner frame.
Hey,
And
Dodie.
yeah.
I've never heard of diatomaceous earth going into those beetle blasters. Can you?
Oh yeah. The diatomaceous earth will scrape up the beetles' shells, and then you don't have to worry about spilling that oil as you remove them. So it's a good option, and just it comes in little bags. You get yourself a bucket and pour some. You can just pour it right in there, and what your overflow just go into the bucket, and then just scoop it from the bucket and you're only going to fill it half full, just like you would if it were oil that you were putting in there. But that way you don't have to worry about spilling it and spilling vegetable oil all over your bees. But the Swiffer dusters, fold them up and then thumbtack them into the corner with all the ruffle edges out, so that as your bees are ripping it apart and trying to get it out of the hive, that your small hive beetles actually get stuck in the ruffled up parts. All right, what is this? Yeah, bummer that. You look at that and you think maybe somebody forgot to put their frames in, or we're going into a honey flow. Our bees are ready. They have made burr comb. And burr comb is honeycomb that the bees put anywhere that it's not supposed to be. So if it's not supposed to be here, then you can call it burr comb and scrape this stuff off. Scrape it off and take it home. If there's already some kind of resources in there, you might leave it somewhere for the bees, not right outside the hive, but somewhere else out in the middle of the yard so that the bees can snag the resources from it. But if you want that, if it's got honey in it and that's your honey to steal, then maybe you steal it all. It's not very much. But don't let them gum up the whole process with a bunch of burr. All right. Next thing we're going to do is look at our population. Is your population consistent for this time of the year? Did you take notes from last time? Do you remember, was it decreasing last time or is it increasing? Decreasing isn't always bad, right? Because you do want your colony to decrease as you're getting into the colder weather. And there's not as many things out there blooming. There's not as much food coming in. You want a smaller population of bees. So decreasing isn't always bad, but you've got to remember and you've got to know, like if this was what your hive looked like today on the left, I'd be nervous. What you want is this right here on the right, because we're going into spring. You want your biggest population to be coming on as your wildflowers get ready to pop open and start blooming. But if we're going into February, if it's mid-January and your colony looks like this over here on the left, then that's fine. Okay. So your population needs to match your the time frame of your bees. Make sure that you have a good, consistent way to count your bees, to count your population. So one really good way is to count how many spaces between the frames are filled with bees, right? If they're not all over everywhere and across the top, but you've actually got just some bees in some frames, then you can count them that way and count that and record it so that you remember from each inspection. Another thing to remember is whatever the temperature is and what time of day you're doing the inspecting. If it's already later in the evening, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, more of your foragers might already be home, and your drones might be in from the day of being out flying. So you might have extra bees in there. So try to do this earlier or in the middle of the day and at the same time. All right. Examining your frames. You're going to use your Hive tool all the time. It's either in your hand or it's in your pocket. And it's almost always in my hand. You use that Hive tool to unstick stuff. That outer frame, I usually pull it all the way out, set it on the side. If it has any bees on it, I might set it in the front of the hive so that if they want to, those bees can crawl back up and get into the hive. Because remember, they're all baby bees and they don't even know they can fly. Pull out the frames vertically and slowly. Do y'all remember that game of Operation? That's the exact game we're playing here. We want to not squash any bees as we're pulling the frames out of the hive. And make sure that you return the frames in the same order. Don't pick up the nursery and put it in the garage. Okay, keep the brood nest all together so that they don't, if you break up your brood nest, then you're making your nurse bees work harder to keep everybody warm. If you have any excess burr comb or propolis that caused that made it harder for you to open take the lid off or to get in between the frames, then scrape that off. Any place that you've got burr comb that it shouldn't be, go ahead and get rid of it. I also like to tilt up the boxes and look at the frames from the bottom up. That's a really good way to see if you have queen cells developing that you might not see if you don't look from all different directions. And if you don't squash any bees, the longer you can be in your hives without killing bees, the longer you can stay in your hives, really. And there's who's in our hive. Always one of the big things you're doing is looking for your queen. So let's do another queen spot. Who can find her? I think this one is a really dark queen, if I remember correctly. Anybody got her yet? I saw her. She's really dark. All right, a big hint is she's towards the left side of your screen. Yeah, Skip says he sees her. Let's zoom in on her. Boom. Look at her, how pretty she is. All right. Who do we see in this frame? This is a good frame. Because not only do we see our breeder queen there with the big number 32 on her, but I can see a big giant drone and I can see workers. Look at how big his eyeballs are. Fuzzy butt on that drone. It's so funny because I don't see drones, all winter and January and February. I don't see them. And suddenly in March, when I start seeing drones, it's like a whole different bee in my colony. It's like, who are you? Where'd you come from? All right. Let's see. So, frames of brood. Remember that beekeeping is all about being proactive and looking forward, right? Remember, and I said that one frame of capped brood is going to hatch out. They're going to emerge, and it's going to be enough to fill 3 frames of walking around bees. So you're always thinking ahead, right? Compare your open cells to your sealed cells. Think about how many you had last time. Is it increasing or is it decreasing? Because, it should be doing that as your seasons change, all right? Also remember that there is a summer dearth. We have it really good in Austin. July, August, right after we put, we steal our honey and then we put back all the wet frames and our bees have a party because everything is just about to die. And then suddenly we give them all these wet frames of honey back and they're so happy to have that. We definitely have a good summer dearth in Austin, where nothing is blooming. Everything out there is dead and crunchy as you're walking along. The ground is just parched. So when that happens, your queen may stop laying. I get calls constantly saying, my queen's gone. She's dead. I've killed her. There's no babies. And it might just be that there's no babies because we don't have any food to feed any babies right now. So your bees are smart enough not to make new babies if there's no food coming in. So it may not be that your queen is gone, especially if you've not sharpened that queen spotting skill enough and you can't find her. It might just be that she's still in there, but that she stopped laying. So this is what we're looking for. Isn't that a pretty frame? What do you see there? Some good stuff, right? Worker larva and eggs. You know, everybody's an egg for the first 3 days, and all of the larvae are fed royal jelly for their first 3 days of life. And you know that this is a really good hive. They've got a lot of resources because those larvae are just swimming in that royal jelly. So that's a really good sign to see that that clear white royal jelly, those babies having a whole lot of extra food. What you don't want to see is larvae in there, and we call it a dry cell, where there's not very much royal jelly for them to eat. This is a wet cell, so that's really good. All right. What is it that you see here? We've got nice worker larvae, some capped brood. There's a drone and some workers. And look up in the top corner up there, Collin. It's like having a bottle in the nursery. So food close to the brood nest is always good. All right. Your open brood, you're always going to want to keep track of that. Make sure that it's healthy. Healthy brood looks white and moist. Keep track of how many frames you have that have brood in them. The larva is dark and it looks like it's turned to goo, or if it looks like it's twisted in there. You see 1 or 2 cells, it might not be any big deal, but if you see more than 12, then yes, you've probably got an issue going on. All right. If you see small larvae, that's great. That means that your queen is there. If you have eggs, then yes, she's been there within 3 days. What do you see here? See a whole bunch of almost baby bees. Yeah. Capped brood all over. There's some drone cells at the bottom. Drone cells tell you as a beekeeper that your colony has enough resources to support boys. That's a good thing. There's some nectar on the edges and some capped honey. So we've got that resource right there in the nursery, right there for the babies. That's a pretty cell right there, a pretty frame. All right, and what do you see here? Same kind of pattern, same kind of stuff. Capped honey, some capped workers, and then some drone cells in the far corner. You can tell that they're boys because they're puffed out a little bit, look like little bullets, where the workers are in a little bit smaller cells. They're capped over. They're all capped over. This is a good cell to say, you know, is that honey or is that a baby underneath there? If you're ever in doubt, take your hive tool and scrape it open. If you see that it's a baby, you'll realize that's what the babies look like and you won't scrape open another one. But if you think about it, the capped honey is capped because we don't want any moisture getting in our honey. So it's capped with wax, like putting wax paper across your green beans, right? And some people look at when bees have walked across the capped honey and it sinks down and actually touches the honey, it gets a little darker. So it's It's the same thing as if you take that wax paper over your green beans and just pushed it down onto the liquid of the green beans, right? It's just touching the honey now. It's not that it's bad or old or anything. It's just that the capping has kind of sunk down and it's sitting right on top of the honey. So that wax capping is on the honey because we don't want moisture in there. But those babies underneath that other brown, leathery looking cappings, they need to breathe. So they're not covering it over so solid that the babies can't breathe, right? We got to be able to breathe through there. So if you look at it and you can't tell if it's honey or if it's babies, think about it being, if it's wax paper, that's honey. Or if it looks like it's material or leather, then that's breathable. And that's where babies are. Okay. Oh, look at this pretty frame. What all do you see there? Love that little line of pollen. Isn't it pretty? We've got capped honey. We've got a little bit of nectar, pollen, and some babies. Also looks like we have some hygienic qualities going on with our queen, where her daughters are now able to smell that there's something wrong with this baby in that cell, and so they're pulling it out. Right. Okay, this is a hint for our next slide. Right. What do you see now? Tons of food. Yeah. Lots of pollen there and some capped babies. But that pollen, that's exactly what we want to see, all the different colors. Because bees, I was listening to the Western Apiculture Society. They have a whole bunch of professors talking a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about how they're finding out how super important different amino acids are for the bees. And you get those different amino acids from pollen. And you and I can't tell, but by looking at all the different colors, that gives you the idea that they're getting all those different amino acids. So seeing a whole bunch of different colored pollen is really a healthy, nice balanced diet for your bees. It's not all one pollen, right? It's not all one color. So that's a good thing. All right. Here's some more babies. This all looks good to me. Some juicy larvae. There's some eggs in the bottom, some capped brood. Nice happy cell there going on. What do you see here? I see lots of nectar in there, and I can also see really well boys and girls, right? Some bullet-looking cells and some flat workers. Anytime you see a bunch of fresh nectar, if you're not already feeding your bees, then you can think that something out there in the world is blooming and they're bringing in the nectar from those flowers. Right. If you do see fresh nectar, then you don't have to worry about feeding them, because they would much rather bring it in than have the sugar syrup that you're giving them. What do you see here? A lot of fresh nectar on there. And I know there's honey too, but not enough capped honey yet. It's still a nectar frame in my opinion. What do you see here? Woohoo, this is gold, right? This is what we're all working for. Capped honey. This is the frame that you pull. This is the one that you take home and get a spoon and start sampling your honey from. Estimate how many frames of honey you have and make a record of that. Anytime honey stores are less than 2 frames, then you need to either feed them or monitor closely. They need to know that they have food in their pantry so that they function really well. So don't ever steal all of the honey. Leave them some. Here's our queen again. So one thing about having the What You Raise Green Bees color dotted queen, not only does it tell you how old she is, but what happens if you go out there and do your next deep dive and you find a queen, or you find what you think is your queen and she doesn't have that dot on her anymore? Is that your same original queen, or did your colony requeen themselves? All right. Look at how this one is a really good queen, because you can tell about all the retinue around her, all of those workers that are taking care of her. That means she smells really good. She's really putting out that queen mandibular pheromone, and those worker bees are touching her and distributing that pheromone all around the hive. So that's a good high quality queen there. She's doing a good job. Realize that it's okay to have queen cups. Most colonies create them all the time as a just in case, and as they're practicing. So having queen cups isn't a bad thing. Your bees are going to build queen cells, either supersedure cells or swarming cells if they need to. So the difference is that your supersedure cells are going to be placed, they're going to be found right in the middle of your frames, because it's an emergency situation. They've decided that they're going to replace the queen. And it might be that they don't smell her anymore. It might be that she hurt herself, or that you might have accidentally rolled her as you were pulling a frame out last time. So anything that could happen, that maybe she's not functioning as well as she should anymore. They'll go to a cell that has a baby in it that's only been fed royal jelly, and they'll convert that cell from a horizontal cell to a vertical one, to a queen cell, and they'll continue to only feed that baby royal jelly. All right. The queen will also build, or the colony will build cells down on the bottom, and then they'll direct the queen to lay in those cells, and those will be your swarm cells, because there's more room down on the bottom. Right. So there's a bunch of swarm cells across the bottom. Right. And then here, when you have it in the middle, right, we talked about that a second ago. If there's an emergency going on, they go back up and look for a baby that's only been fed that royal jelly. So these are emergency supersedure cells. And has anybody seen this slide before? It tells a great story. That queen emerged from the left side, and they pipe. It's kind of like she's asking, are there any other queens out here? And the other queens will actually answer. As they get developed enough to answer, old enough, they'll pipe back and say, yeah, I'm over here. And she'll walk over there and rip the side of the cell open and sting them to death. Because there can only be one queen, right? All hail the queen, long live the queen. So we have that one cell that our queen came out of, and then the others that were ripped open and killed. So something else that you need to take notes on and think about is the temperament of your colony. Are they nice and calm? Is it a joy to work with them, or are you thinking already that, I don't want to work on that one. We're going to save that one till last. That's the one colony I don't want to touch. I don't want to open that box. Or, oh my gosh, get the smoker going really good. We're headed over here to this one. So if think about the temperament of your colony. And if I like to give I say 3 strikes and you're out, but I really do give a lot of my colonies way more than 3 strikes. But they're out in the middle of a field, and I have that ability to let them slide and let them get mean and aggressive, because there's nobody around. But if you do live in a subdivision, maybe you don't want to get them really mean, let them develop and be mean, and then they're just bigger colonies of mean bees. and you just let them grow and they're just huge and they're still mean bees. So if you're going to replace your queen, now you've got to go through a huge colony of mean bees to find your old one. The good news is once you've replaced your queen, the whole temperament of the colony will settle down in just a couple of weeks. So it doesn't even take the whole time to replace all the bees for them to be sweeter bees. Just a couple of weeks will really do good. So what do you see here? Whenever I have lifted off my top box and I've had drone cells in between, I always like to take that opportunity to look for mites. You've already busted up the cells anyway, so you might as well, make their little lives count for something. So I pick them all up and check them out and make sure that mites haven't been eaten on them. It's always a good thing to figure out. What about now? It looks to me like, oh wait, let me go back. It looks to me here like our queen has, she's, I'm gonna say getting older now, or your colony has gotten so super hygienic that they're pulling out all the larvae. It's probably more common that your queen is a couple of years old now. It's time to replace her because that's a really spotty brood pattern. All right, so that's the spotty brood pattern that you're looking for that tips you off that it's time to replace your queen. And what's going on here? If you look in your cells, in your frames, and you see more than one egg, that means you've got a laying worker going on. And that means you don't have your queen anymore. You need to probably do a newspaper combine with a colony that's got a good solid queen going. Your population is either full of drones or it's really shrunk down a whole bunch. But do a newspaper combine with a really good strong queen, and then get a new queen and make a split if you need to. Multiple eggs in a single cell. All right, what's going on here? So this is one of the bad diseases. It's European foul brood. And the reason why you can tell is that the babies, the larvae have died at different stages. European foul brood is a whole bunch of bacteria that kill at different stages of larval development. So you can see, I don't know if you can see my pointer or not, but there's brown, ugly ones. There's a twisted one here at the bottom. They're just not white and juicy like they're supposed to be. They're all kind of yellow tinged, and they're like, this one looks like it's gooey. So they're all dying from different bacterial diseases. All right, European foul brood doesn't necessarily smell bad, but it is way more common than the American foul brood. American foul brood happens after the larva has been capped. So if you can see your dead and dying, gross looking larva, it's European foul brood. And sometimes just really giving them a whole bunch of sugar syrup, feeding them really well, will get you through this. It might be that you need to boost the colony with some extra frames of brood. What's going on here? Oh yeah, no, this is bad. Your bees have dysentery, and it's probably a sign of nosema. So I would go through the frames, take the babies out, put them in a new box, clean this box up really good, and then you can reuse it. Or let it sit out in the sun for a while. Maybe even squirt it down with some Clorox and clean it up really good. But yeah, that's a nasty case of bee poop. But again, feeding them really well can help them get that through their system, and then they can be just fine. What's happening here? Yeah, this is sad news too. You've gotten slimed, right? Small hive beetles have slimed your honey. These are the small hive beetle larvae. So if you don't get rid of the adult beetles, then the babies, they pupate in the ground underneath your hive, and they come up and they'll slime your honey. There's nothing you can do with this honey now. You can't eat it, and you shouldn't. I don't think your bees even want to eat it either. No, they don't. So try to get rid of your small hive beetles as they're adults, and don't let them pupate, and don't let these little larvae get into your. Another thing is the pollen patties make great small hive beetle nurseries. So that's why Skip was saying just feed them just a quarter of that pollen patty. Make sure that they eat it all, and anything that they don't eat out of that quarter of a pollen, if there's still a little bit left, scrape it out with your tool and toss it out somewhere. If they want to, they can eat from it outside of the hive. But it's also probably after a week full of small hive beetle larvae. So you don't want those to hatch out. So scrape it all out and get it out of your colony. If they don't eat it all, then you need to get rid of it. And what is this? This is the damage from wax moth larvae. They've gone in and made little. It's like a spider web. They eat the wax, the older wax from underside. So it looks like it's all fine, but you can just peel that stuff off because it's not connected to your foundation anymore. And yeah, if that's all you have, I would just scrape that out with a hive tool. Make sure your colony is strong, because this is a really big sign that your colony doesn't have enough bees in it. Either your population is decreased and they can't guard all of this space. So maybe you need to do some space management here so that you don't have to deal with the wax moths. And I do this whole top to bottom, left to right, every frame, check, that Thanksgiving weekend. So if I get down to the bottom and see bad, if I see all those mites, if I see that many mites, I'm going to think about a mite treatment. It might even be too late. Clean up all these dead beetles. That could be some kind of problem. It's good to get down there and check out your bottom board. Your bees are normally pretty clean animals. They haul all their dead bodies out, and they keep their house pretty clean. So if you see excessive amounts of, it could even be that your bees got robbed because there's a whole bunch of wax down there, right? And maybe you didn't even know they were robbed. But having a whole bunch of pieces of wax would tell you the story. So it's good to get down there and check and see what's going on. So when you're doing your hive observation or your hive inspection, the things that you're making sure you're doing is you're making sure all the time that you're queen right, that you've got eggs, that your brood pattern looks nice and pretty, that you've got the right amount of worker cells versus drone cells. Think about your bee math. If I have this many bees, I have this many capped larvae, how many bees do I have the room for this many bees to hatch out? As their population is increasing, am I giving them enough space? As it's decreasing, am I taking away some of the space so that we don't have the wax moth issues? If you're looking at the front entrance, and is your whole population expanding or decreasing? Look at the entrance traffic. Is it a whole lot like it should be going into, if something and you're in the honey flow and there's workers are just the foragers are coming back and forth and working so hard, or are they just barely, just a few of them because maybe there's nothing out there to eat? And think about a way to count your bees all the time. If it's how many bees are in between the frames, or if it's how many frames are covered with bees, or whatever method you want to use to count your bees, make sure that population is doing what it's supposed to be doing according to the season that you're in. Do you have drones? And that's a good thing if your colony has drones, because that means that they feel like they can support having them. So making sure that you don't have any swarm cells during March and April, May, even. You're looking for those swarm cells. You're making sure that you have that you have enough room for your bees to expand as they need to, so that they don't think that they need to swarm away. Think about anything that's bad. Are your bees being really too mean? Are you finding a lot of queen cells? Do you have pests? Right. So common actions to take depending on the season and the state of the colony. You might need to feed, you might need to add or remove supers or whole deep boxes. You might need to open or close your entrances. Open up the area around the brood nest so that they don't feel like they're overcrowded. This can help put off swarming for a while. Do you need to split your hives? Do you need to requeen? Harvest honey, that'd be a great thing. Maybe you need to rotate your combs out. If you bought a package of bees, or if you're going to get a package of bees this year, you're going to probably get some old, dirty looking comb. And if you can rotate out 2 frames of comb every year, then you replace your whole box every 5 years. And that's about how long some of that comb, some of that wax needs to stay in your colony, because you can't really restrict where your bees are traveling and what they're walking on as they're collecting their nectar and pollen out there. And they could be bringing nasty stuff back home. And wax is just like a living being. It just absorbs everything, including all the pesticides that are out there. So rotating out your comb is a really good thing to try to do. So if you need to date it or mark it somehow, it'd be really good to, as you're going through your season, pick 2 frames that are the grossest and make sure that you put them on the outside of the brood nest so that the queen stops laying in them. And then the next couple of months, move them out another frame and move them out another frame, so that by the time you go into winter, those are your 2 most outside frames. And then that'll make it really easy to just rotate those out really in the early part of spring. Take those away, put in 2 brand new ones kind of right outside of the brood nest. So you've opened up your brood nest. You make your colony feel like that they have enough room and they don't need to swarm. So you get a 2-for-1 there. You rotate out your old comb and you're opening up your brood nest a little bit more. So if you need to feed your bees, why do you need to feed them? Why would you feed bees? You would feed brand new colonies. You would feed bees that don't have honeycomb to store nectar and honey in. You would feed a dying colony. You'd feed a colony to stimulate the buildup. If your hive doesn't have at least 3 deep frames of honey, 15 pounds, then it's not going to function correctly. It's not going to store more honey. They just function better knowing that they've got food in the pantry. In the spring, and to increase honeycomb wax buildup, you feed 1-to-1 sugar syrup. And then in the wintertime, say around October, November, you start feeding them a little bit thicker, and that encourages them to store the sugar syrup. It's 2-to-1. So you want them to store that for the winter. Don't feed your bees honey that you get from the grocery store. If you've pulled honey from your hives, you can feed them that, but don't feed them any other honey. pollen patties. Usually in Central Texas, there is something pollen-wise coming in year-round. So before you even think that you need to go out and buy some pollen patties, sit there for a little while and watch the front of your beehives and see if your bees aren't bringing in pollen on their legs. Because if they're bringing it in already, I guarantee you they're not going to take that pollen substitute. They would much rather bring in real pollen than eat the substitute stuff. So you could just be wasting your money. And I don't like to feed in my hive. My bees they're not commuter bees. They're not pollinator bees. They're just here to get an ag exemption, really. So they're not leaving their home. So I don't feel the need to feed them pollen to artificially create a whole bunch of babies out of season. I don't want them to make a bunch of babies until they've got enough food that they can bring it in on their own, right? So make sure you have a goal before you feed. Know what that goal is. And remember to take notes and keep those notes and look at them before you go out to your next inspection so that you can know what what's happening in the past and what you're looking forward to. As Skip was saying, watching the weather is always great fun, especially when they start talking about the pollen counts and which trees are blooming and where the pollen's coming in from. All right, it's not the end, it's the beginning. So keep learning and let me know if you have any questions. That's it.
Hey, Dodie, you will make a big plug for the Texas Master Beekeeping Program while you're here. I know we've had several people ask, but if you want to let them know more about that.
It's a great program. The fun thing is that it's all online, and you don't have to pay any money. You can go there and start learning and start pulling from all of these resources and learning about the Master Beekeeper program and all the different steps and levels. And if you really want to get into it, but it's all online, so go and you can learn on your own time at your own pace. And then when you're ready to take that test, that's when you have to pay the money to we have to pay the people that do the testing. But you're going to learn so much more than you really thought you ever needed to know about bees if you go through the program. It's really helpful. And if you do have any questions, let me know. Did y'all like looking for the queen?
Oh yeah, I use that too.
Yes, and seriously, if you need to dust up on that skill, yeah, you spend a day at the rodeo or the state fair, you get to do that all day long.
Everybody saying great presentation, awesome from the chat. Well, thank you, Dodie. It's nice hearing from you again. I'll be on with you again later in the week, and we'll talk more education stuff. But thank you for coming on and giving a good presentation. It's always nice to hear from other people and different viewpoints of beekeeping. And especially from the Austin region, since you are the central area, beekeeping is a little different up here. We stay a little colder, where y'all get a little bit more warm temperatures down there. So hopefully everything's working good for y'all, and hopefully your pollens are starting to come out. Like I said, we're a little about a week or two behind the normal time frame. All right, thank you again. We appreciate you coming out. Everybody, thank you for showing up, and we'll have this posted as soon as we can onto our YouTube channel. Like I said, if you have questions, you can also get on Dodie. She is our vice president for TBA, so you can contact her that way. She's doing a great job for our Texas beekeepers for sure, and I'm glad she's doing it, not me. So. But,
well, if anybody wants to help at the summer clinic, summer clinic, let me know. if you're wanting to come down to Temple for the fall seminar and want to help there, reach out to me. I'll hook you up.
All right, thank you again. We appreciate it. And everybody, thank you for coming on tonight. We hope you have your bees are doing well and that you're seeing lots of things happening. Like I said, we're starting to see lots of pollen coming in. So we should start seeing some change. Like I said, we're already looking at before the meeting started, we hit half an inch of rain. So hopefully we're over an inch. So we've been needing it really bad up in this area. So hopefully your bees will start really doing some awesome things in your hive. So thank you again. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see y'all next month.
Thank you. All right, y'all take care.
Right. Bye, everybody.